Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in part 8 of What If Reds and Blues goes to Remnant. Link down description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 15, The Next Step. Remnant, Kingdom of Vale, Beacon Academy. POV, The Reds and Blues. Premise, with Cinder on the run, and Torchwick dead. The Reds and Blues are now ready for some answers, as a darker and more powerful enemy lurks in the shadows. Never before has all of Remnant found itself in silence. The White Fang, led by criminal Roman Torchwick, had orchestrated sending Grimm into the Kingdom of Vale. But this attack was stopped by the Huntsmen of Beacon Academy, the Atlas military, and the militant group known as the Reds and Blues. All of the Reds and Blues stood in the office of the headmaster of Beacon Academy, Ozpin. Tucker, Sarge, and Wash all looked out the large window in the back of the office, which showed the entirety of Beacon, the Emerald Forest, and the city of Vale. The latter of which was the farthest away. Griff, Simmons, Kai, and Griff were staring at a holographic TV that displayed the VNN headline news being hosted by Lisa Lavender, which showed a news report on the events that transpired in Vale. Donut, Doc, and Lopez stood off to the side, either leaning against one of the pillars that held up a secondary observation deck. Carolina and Locus leaned against the desk. At first, many assumed Torchwick's goal was simply to cause chaos. But a sudden discovery made by the Reds and Blues revealed that Torchwick was part of a plan to attack Beacon. The mastermind of the plot was a mysterious woman authorities have identified as Cinder Fall. Fall was masquerading as a student at Beacon before being exposed. She, and her associates' current whereabouts are currently unknown. The actions of the Reds and Blues have also caught the attention of many people throughout the world. The scene on the TV quickly changed to that of a young huntress and aspiring politician named Robin Hill. For once, someone in this world is sharing my ideals. Robin stated at a political rally in the city of Mantle, I believe the Reds and Blues are heroes that must be recognized for their reactions. As the screen showed Robin being appalled by the people of Mantle. It was suddenly changed to Jaques Schnee, Weiss' father, and the head of the Schnee Dust Company. He stood at a podium just outside his manor in Atlas. Those bastards are the filth of Remnant. Jaques shouted, they are simply trying to take away Atlas' power and ability to keep the world safe. They will also try to prevent me from exporting dust to the people. What a dick. Griff snorted at the TV, what the fuck is his problem? Is he wearing a clip-on tie? Simmons muttered before shutting the TV off. Sarge then spoke, seems like we're popular. That's an understatement. Carolina chuckled, we've put the world into shock. Well, we have that effect on a lot of people. Doc chimed in. Let's not let it get to our heads guys. Tucker announced while looking away from the window, there's still unfinished business left, but yeah, let's enjoy this. Being popular is awesome. And with the bombshell we dropped on Vale, we may have halted Cinder for a very long time. Wash added. So, does anyone have any information on this Ozpin guy? Carolina asked everyone. From what I've gathered, Simmons said, the guy's a prodigy. Attended Beacon, became a professor here, before earning the job of headmaster. He also has a seat on the council. Not bad. Donut muttered. But here's the funny thing. Simmons continued, ever since the Huntsman Academies were founded, the headmaster of Beacon has always been one of Remnant's most experienced prodigies. That can't be a coincidence. Locus muttered, as he stopped leaning against the desk. Number shit dude. Lopez said to the former merc. A chime then emitted from one of the elevators before opening. Out stepped the two huntsmen they met in Vale earlier that day, and a man that had to be Ozpin. He had messy silver hair and thin brown eyes. Thank you for waiting, he said to them, the general has been informing me of what has transpired down in Vale. He is jealous. Caboose asked, causing the others to chuckle. Flabbergasted actually. The man in white replied, I believe introductions are in order. I am General Ironwood. Tucker cut him off, headmaster of Atlas Academy, head of the Atlas military, and holds 2 seats on the Atlas Council. We know. Again, flabbergasted. Ironwood muttered. The blonde then spoke up, I am Glinda Goodwitch, one of the professors at Beacon, she said in her no-nonsense attitude. Right. Tucker replied before addressing the man in black, I assume you're Ozpin. Indeed. Ozpin said, As the two shook hands, I already know your names, but why not tell me them anyway? Sure. Tucker agreed. I'm Tucker, Captain Lavernius Tucker. Colonel Sarge. Captain Richard Simmons. Griff. Wash. Carolina. Franklin D. Donut. Frank Dufresne, but my alter ego is O'Malley. Locus. Lopez the Heavy. Kaikina Griff. Pleasure. Ozpin replied, mostly speaking for himself. So you said that you already knew us. Locus muttered, how is that? He probably knew from the news. Griff suggested. On the contrary. Ozpin said to them, I knew people way before you showed up on the map. How's that? Simmons asked. Ozpin motioned to Glinda, who revealed a white helmet similar to the Reds and Blues but of an older design. I believe you knew its owner. Ozpin questioned. We did. Tucker muttered as he took the helmet from Glinda. Wyoming, crazy bastard. Ozpin chuckled. Yes indeed. Did you remove components from the helmet? Carolina asked. Only the memory unit. Ironwood answered her. We wanted to remove more, but the helmet's design is too complex. Most of the files in the unit were encrypted. Ozpin added, the only ones we could access showed you all in a boxed canyon with Team RWBY. That's when we first met them. Caboose muttered. So where is this boxed canyon exactly? Ironwood asked them. From the looks of it, it seemed it was located somewhere in Vacuo. Oh, it's not in the vacuum. Caboose replied. Vacuo, Caboose. Tucker corrected his friend. To answer your question, it's not in Vacuo at all. Or the other kingdoms. Then where is it? Glinda questioned, folding her arms. We're not from this world, lady. Griff explained, we're from another dimension. One where mankind said, screw it, I hate just living on Earth, and colonized other worlds. Glinda simply scoffed, you expect us to believe that? No. Doc spoke up, but it's the truth nonetheless. If you are not happy with our answer, then screw you. O'Malley added. O'Malley, that's not very nice. Shut up. It's the appropriate amount of nice. O'Malley retorted. What's with him? Ironwood asked about Doc, is he crazy? That's up for debate. Donut muttered. I assume you saw in the files that Doc was acting the same way. Sarge asked. Ozpin asked. Ah yes, I remember now. Said Ozpin, Doc was infected by a rogue AI. I presume that he still is. Not exactly. Simmons explained, Doc has a split personality. For some reason, it has taken on the likeness and personality of O'Malley. Interesting. Ozpin replied, may I ask, where is your leader? The Reds and Blues all looked at him confused. What are you talking about? Tucker asked, I'm the leader. Well, technically me, Sarge, Wash, and Carolina are all co-leaders of the team entirely. While I lead Blue Team, and Sarge leads Red Team. I can already tell you four are the new leaders. Ozpin replied, I was talking about your former leader, I believe his name was, Leonard Church. Ozpin expected a reply. Instead, all he got was silence. Is something wrong, Captain Tucker? Ironwood asked. Well, Tucker sighed, I regret to inform you that Leonard Church has been dead for over 2 years. Oh, Ozpin muttered, slightly surprised, my condolences. Thank you. But hey, what you gonna do? Tucker quipped. Ain't the first time he died. Sarge muttered. Yeah, Church has been resurrected more times than Jean Grey. Griff added. What do you mean, resurrected? Glinda asked, quite confused at what they were talking about. It's a rather long story. Wash replied. We're willing to tell you all our little story. Tucker added, but first, we wish to know a little more about our discovery. Right. Ozpin replied, which one of you has it? Tucker turned back to his friends, Kai. Kai stepped forward before standing next to Tucker. You have it? Ozpin asked her. Yes. Kai replied. Do you feel anything weird? I don't think so. Kai replied, but I do love all the cool things I can do. Look, we have many questions about whatever Kai absorbed, and we know it came from Beacon. So we're wondering if you can give us any insight into what the hell Cinder wanted with it. Ozpin straightened himself as if he was about to reveal some burden. He looked at Ironwood and Glinda. Ironwood nodded, while Glinda frowned and shook her head. He then turned back to the Reds and Blues. May I ask you all one last question? He asked them. Tucker looked at his friends before looking back. Fire away. What is your favorite fairy tale? Paw of Change, Cinder Fall. A lone Valine bullhead flew through darkened red skies. The terrain below was rocky, deathly, and desolate. Grim of various species lurking about. The bullhead landed on a makeshift landing pad that led up to a very ominous-looking castle that was made of some purple crystal. Two men walked towards the bullhead. The first wore a grayish-blue suit with yellow linings. He was of middle age, had slightly tanned skin, grayish-black hair, a thick mustache and eyebrows, and green eyes. The second was a younger man that stood taller than his companion. He had tanned skin, brown hair, a beard, and hazel eyes. He wore a two-tone olive-green coat over a black shirt, a belt around his waist, and black pants with several pouches on them. The door to the bullhead opened and the two men ducked as a cargo container was thrown at them. The container fell just behind them, smashing into pieces. The two then looked back at the bullhead, and noticed an enraged Cinder fall storm out of the craft. She glared at each of them and growled before walking up to the castle's entrance. Emerald and Mercury then got out and walked towards them. "Well, she's just a ray of sunshine," the older man muttered. "What happened?" "We'll explain inside," Mercury grumbled. "Oh, I won't guarantee she'll listen," the man replied. "Tyrion too." "Enough." The younger man spoke up. "Be careful what you say, Watts." "Whatever," Watts muttered before walking away. Emerald and Mercury followed suit, while the younger man stayed behind, gazing at the bullhead. "Hazel," Watts shouted from the castle entrance. Hazel then turned around and joined the others, entering the castle. Later, within the castle laid a large room for meetings. It was as dark and gloomy as the rest of the darkened landscape outside. Large windows surrounded the entire room, and was lit by dull candles. A large reddish-purple table was in the center, with various wooden chairs surrounding it. A throne-like chair was at the head. In its place was a woman with deathly white, reddish-black veins flowing down her arms and face. Her hair was just as deathly white as her skin, tied up in a large bun with 6 offshoots warped together that suspended several obsidian-colored ornaments. She wore a very long short-sleeved black robe that obscured her feet. Salem, Watts and the man he identified earlier as Tyrion sat on either side of the table. Tyrion wore a brown coat with a white shirt underneath. He had dark brown hair, fair skin, and yellow eyes. A tail stuck out of him, implying that he was a faunus. Cinder, Emerald, and Mercury all stood at the entrance of the room, kneeling in front of the table. Hazel, on the other hand, stood off to the side. Cinder grit her teeth in anger. Her defeat was surely not going to be unnoticed. "I would like you to explain to me," Salem began in a low cold tone, "how it is you failed so spectacularly." The trio said nothing. Watts and Tyrion looked at one another, with the former shrugging at his ally. Hazel looked at Emerald and Mercury. "Well," Salem asked. Finally, Cinder was the first to speak. "The plan went smoothly at first. The White Fang did as they were told. We..." "Stop," Salem cut her off. "Let me rephrase this. Who or what is responsible for our inability to get into Beacon?" Cinder stood up. "Reds. Blues." "Say that again," Salem requested. "Reds and blues," Cinder shouted. "It was the Reds and Blues." Salem remained unfazed at Cinder's words. "Ah, what?" Watts questioned. He, perhaps our little maiden has gone mad." Tyrion taunted Cinder. The former maiden summoned her old weapon in anger. "Enough, please, enough," Salem said to everyone. "Tyrion, please." The faunus simply bowed. "Of course, Your Grace." Salem then looked back at Cinder. "Now you may explain." Emerald and Mercury stood up and looked at Cinder before she spoke. "For the past few days, things have been going perfect. Our operations with the White Fang have turned the attention of the kingdoms on them, giving us an opening into Beacon. Our plot was in full motion. And then, they showed up." "These Reds and Blues?" Watts asked. Cinder grit her teeth. "They stopped various White Fang skirmishes in Vale. I assumed they were simply an annoyance that could be dealt with. Until the night I was attacked by them. They now have it." "Have what?" Salem asked. "The full power of the Fall Maiden," Cinder replied. Everyone then looked at Salem with fearful expressions. "That's not possible," Tyrion muttered. "How could that be?" Watts questioned. "Do they have the full power?" "Yes, they do," Mercury answered him. Salem remained unfazed, but a sign of anger did show in her eyes. "Continue," she said to Cinder, with enough venom to scare anyone. They stole the maiden powers, found our secret hideout in Mountain Glen, and forced our mission to move ahead of schedule. Things went well, the huntsmen fought, Atlas showed up, and the breach was contained. Ironwood was about to arrest Torchwick until those bastards did the unthinkable. What did they do? Hazel asked, finally speaking. They killed him. Cinder replied, then, they revealed everything. In front of the huntsmen, Beacon, and Atlas. Salem remained unfazed before sighing. What, exactly did they reveal? Our attack on Beacon. Cinder replied. And what of our entire cabal, and our mission? Salem added. No, nothing of that. Cinder shook her head, just Beacon, no more no less. Watsby asked another question, what of Torchwick's associate? Neapolitan. She's with Adam and the White Fang. Emerald answered him, she's been trying to keep all of Torchwick's contacts and employers intact. What about Adam? Hazel asked, do we still have our deal with them? We do. Mercury replied, Adam wants the reds and blues in the ground as much as we do. At that moment Salem stood up, forcing everyone silent. She walked up to Cinder, fear rushing through the former maiden's mind. And all of this happened because of your overconfidence. Salem questioned her. Cinder lowered her head, yes. Salem smirked evilly, that's correct. She walked back to her throne, it's important not to lose sight of what drives us. Salem announced, love, justice, reverence, but the moment you put your desires before my own, they will be lost to you. This isn't a threat, this is simply the truth. The path to your desires is only found, through me. And so we must press on. Train laughed slightly, I agree. Your Grace if I may. Watts spoke up, since our operation in Vale has backfired due to these reds and blues, Ozpin is sure to tighten his grip on the Academy. We'll need to turn our eyes somewhere else for the time being. Perhaps Vacuo. No. Salem replied sternly, Beacon Academy stands as the greatest huntsman academy out of the other three. It represents hope and security to all of Remnant. But most of all, Ozpin is its headmaster. We strike there, and we'll take the king. And the pawns will be scattered. Watts added. Precisely. Said Salem, Cinder dear. Which of these reds and blues have acquired the Fall Maiden's power? The yellow one. Cinder replied, Kai. Interesting. Salem muttered, these reds and blues have proved their strength. But we need more intel on them. They're idiots. Cinder said to her, they could do anything, and are unpredictable. True. Salem replied, but perhaps we could use that to our advantage. Pav change, the reds and blues. Ozpin told them everything and more. The group of sim troopers and the trio of huntsmen stood in a dark room with two chamber pods. One carrying an unconscious girl, while the other was empty. Tucker stared at the pod with interest. So this is the maiden? He asked Ozpin. Was the maiden? Glinda corrected him, until whatever you people did and the power disappeared. Tucker nodded, and her wounds have begun to heal. Yes. Ironwood replied, but it's a slow process. I see. Tucker muttered. So this Salem, Carolina spoke up, she's the prize. Salem's no prize. Ozpin said to her, she's a threat. One that is a pressing one to all of Remnant. She controls the Grim, and has been manipulating both the White Fang and Torchwick. The woman you have identified as Cinder is one of Salem's disciples, and will not stop until she gets what she wants. What of Cinder's posse? Sarge asked, Emerald and Mercury. We presume that they are only loyal to Cinder. But that is but a rumor. Ironwood answered. So each maiden has an ability over a specific season. Winter, spring, summer, and fall. But only one can access a relic that has been stored at one of the 4 Huntsman Academies. Griff muttered. Yes. Ozpin replied, spring for knowledge, summer for destruction, winter for creation, and fall for choice. Then that means there's a relic here at Beacon, correct? Wash asked. Yes. Ozpin answered, but let's just say I have made the relic of choice a little harder to find. Donut then decided to ask the million-dollar question, who else knows about all of this? Us, you people, the 2 other headmasters of Haven and Shade Academies, and our contact Kiro. Kiro, Griff muttered, as in Kiro Bronwyn. Glinda looked at the orange soldier, you know him. No, I don't, but wait. That's why Team STRQ separated. They knew about this. Simmons added. That's correct. Ozpin replied, but how do you know about them? Did Ms. Rose tell you about her family? Sarge shook his head, no she didn't. But the other day we had the pleasure of running into members of the Bronwyn tribe. Raven. Ironwood muttered darkly. Yang's biological mother. Griff added, she's one tough cookie. Indeed she is. Ironwood replied. Is that why Summer disappeared? Kai questioned, because she knew about this. No. Ozpin answered her, or at least we don't know. The trail went cold after we went looking for her. Tucker muttered, as he turned back around to face the maiden. I know this feels odd for all of you, but it is the truth. Ozpin said to them, it's like you said, Tucker. This world is doomed. We are trying to protect it. So, are you in? Glinda asked them all. Tucker continued to stare at the maiden before looking at Donut, Doc, and Lopez. The trio nodded at him. He then looked at Sarge, Griff, and Simmons. They nodded as well, with Griff giving him a thumbs up. Tucker then turned his sights on Locus, Wash, and Carolina, who grunted and nodded at the same time. Next came Kai, who nodded. Finally came Caboose, and the only word he could utter was neat. Tucker nodded before turning around to face the three huntsmen. We're in. Ozpin smiled. Perfect. Of course agreements like this one usually come with a few requests. Tucker added. Agreed. Ozpin nodded. What do you request from us in return? First off, we wish to move our base here to Beacon. Tucker explained. Second, we wish to teach your students. Huntsmen are strong but weak nonetheless. We could give them a little boost. Ozpin looked at Ironwood, who simply gave him a look of agreement. He then looked at Glinda, who simply crossed her arms and grunted in disagreement. Those can be arranged. Ozpin said to them, anything else? Tucker at his friends before looking back at Ozpin, smirking. We want both RWBY and JNPR turned over to us, he replied bluntly. Glinda glared at him. I believe that cannot be. Deal. Ozpin cut her off. Now, I believe there are some people upstairs that are waiting for you. Tucker sighed. Yes, there is. Pav change. Ozpin's office. Both the Reds and Blues, Ozpin's inner circle exited the elevator and walked into the headmaster's office. Sure enough, both Team RWBY and JNPR were waiting for them. Professor. RWBY said as they all approached the huntsman teams, you called us here. Are they going to be arrested for killing Torchwick? Weiss sighed. RWBY, calm down. Ozpin of course couldn't help but chuckle. Of course not. As a matter of fact, we've congratulated them for snuffing out a terrorist plot against Beacon. I still can't believe Mercury and Emerald were saboteurs. Yang muttered darkly, eyes flaring red in the process. Indeed. Ozpin replied, this revelation is shocking for everyone. But for now, we must not press on it. I believe your friends here have something to say. Correct, Professor. Griff replied. What is it? Blake asked them. The truth. Chapter 16. Why are we here? Remnant, Kingdom of Vale, Beacon Academy. Pav. Ozpin's office. Premise. The Reds and Blues talk about their vacation, and a proposition made by Blood Gulch crew gives Ozpin a choice. Silence. Nothing but utter silence was all they got from the huntsmen. They were all in Ozpin's office, with the professor at his desk, along with Glinda and Ironwood. RWBY and JNPR stood off to one side of the room, with the Reds and Blues on the other. Yang was the first to speak, so he's gone. Sarge cut her off. Yeah, he is. He gave everything to save us. Wash added solemnly, of course it wasn't the first time either. It was so awesome for a while, there. Tucker shouted, reminiscing about the past, he powered up my suit and I was like Neo in the goddamn Matrix. I was juggling these two guns and the sword. And dodging bullets. It was fucking amazing. And then it was all over. And, he was gone. The suit was useless. Empty. But, you know, we won. Ozpin stood up from his desk, rubbing his head. He wasn't annoyed at them or anything, he felt sympathy for them. Glinda was on the same boat, but did hold mixed feelings regarding Locus and the ex-freelancers. Ironwood felt the same as Glinda, but felt the most neutral out of the three of them. Their home, universe, literally every aspect of one's life from where the Reds and Blues came from, was far more technically advanced than Remnant. Their home planet Earth was home to over hundreds of various kingdoms, which were called nations. Governed by federal republics, constitutional and absolute monarchies, one-party states, theocracies, etc. Various countries included the United States of America, the most powerful nation. The imperial throne, better known as Russia. The United Kingdom, also known as Great Britain, and America's closest ally. France, which was known for its culture. Germany, one of the economic powerhouses of Earth with a dark past. Each country had its autonomy, but was loyal and part of a bigger federation that really governed over Earth, and in turn, humanity itself, the UNSC. Humanity had colonized numerous planets and solar systems, stretching to the far reaches of the galaxy. It was mind-boggling. The Blood Gulch crew told them all about their universe's Great War, which was also called the Human Covenant War. Then came Project Freelancer, Blood Gulch, meeting Team RWBY, the end of the war, being separated only to be reunited by Wash to hunt down the Meta, Church killing himself only to return as Epsilon, Team RWBY returning along with Team JNPR, the Meta dying, Agent Carolina, the Chorus Civil War, Epsilon dying, everything. You all, Ozpin began, have experienced rather traumatic events. I sincerely apologize that you all had to recall these events. Dude, that's like the third time you told us that. Simmons said to him. Right, Ozpin replied as he straightened himself, I believe there is more. Yep, Carolina said, popping the P for dramatic purposes. So what happened after chorus? RWBY asked them all. The Reds and Blues, minus Locus and Carolina, all groaned in annoyance. Lots of bullshit, I don't even know where to start. Griff explained. Before or after the temple? Tucker asked them all. If it's before, this is gonna get NSFW real quick. Weiss looked at him funny. Temple. Oh yeah. Tucker shouted, after we captured Hargrove, we partied fucking hard. See, Chorus has this ancient relic called the Temple of Procreation that when activated makes. Wait, you never told me you activated that. Locus cut him off. Why would you do that? Kimball gave us the green light to do so. Tucker explained to the Merc, everyone wanted to party and the population was dwindling due to the war. Wait, Blake said to them, it doesn't do as the name implies, right? Oh, it does. Sarge replied, it was all like a planet-wide aphrodisiac. Things got real bohemian. You all keep saying that, but everything felt normal to me. Tucker said to Sarge. Wash then muttered, surprising no one. Gross. Weiss shouted. I wish I was there. Young shouted, mostly to see Weiss and Blake cringe. From you Young, I am not even surprised. Griff said to her. Hee hee, let me ease Ruby's concern over her boyfriend's virginity. O'Malley spoke up, once the idiot with the sword over here activated the temple. The blue moron just fell asleep. So he didn't do anything weird? RWBY asked. No, not at all. Doc replied, he was too stupid to know what was going on, so he just fell asleep. Locus was already off of chorus by the time the planet-wide party began. Tucker added. Can we please change the subject? Simmons stuttered. Why are you so nervous? Nora asked him. Oh, he and Griff are just upset because they got locked in a storage closet during the whole thing. Caboose explained casually. What? Young giggled before bursting into laughter, Nora doing the same. The subject. Griff barked, change it. Wash then did so. To actually answer your question, after the war on chorus we decided we would take some time off. We've earned some R&R. Tucker added, even Carolina agreed. I thought I'd give the simple life a day in court. Carolina muttered. Kimball set us up on this isolated moon called Iris. Simmons explained, she built us the most awesome new bases ever. Everyone adjusted to the peace and quiet differently. Tucker continued, some of us were naturals. Don't hate the player. Griff muttered. Sarge got hopelessly depressed after not dying heroically on chorus. Simmons mentioned. Why would you want to die in a war? Ironwood questioned, sure, it's a noble act, but, really? It's hogwash. Baseless slander. Sarge cried. But sir, Simmons said to him, you said. Lopez then projected an image of Red Team in their older clunky armor. They were standing just outside their new base. I am hopelessly depressed after not dying heroically on chorus. Sarge shouted, we need a new enemy. Something to fight. Red Team then ran away from the crazy red soldier. Where are you all going? The image then disappeared. Sarge wasn't the only one having trouble adjusting to inaction. Tucker added before all eyes turned to Carolina. What? She questioned. Fortunately, we found a tutor. Wash explained. An image then showed Carolina standing in front of Griff, who was sitting on the ground. "Help me, Griff," she said to the orange soldier, "help me being the best at being lazy." "You're not ready, Padawan," Griff said to her in a wise voice. "I can try." "There is no try." The peaceful times didn't last too long. Tucker continued, "Turns out Iris had some native life forms." The image then showed Griff, Tucker, and Simmons all running from some unknown creature. "RRUNN. I can't die as food. Oh, the irony." While everyone debated if dying as food was technically ironic, Carolina continued, "Caboose went and made friends with the dinosaurs." "Seriously?" John muttered. "Why would he do that?" Glinda asked. "Because of course he did," Griff muttered, while looking at the blue soldier. The image then showed Tucker, Carolina, and Sarge looking up at something. A large shadow just next to them. "Who is a good boy?" Caboose cooed. You are a good boy." "Caboose, get down," Tucker shouted. "Tell him to fight me," Sarge added. "And then Donut somehow managed to burn down our bases," Griff shouted. The image then showed Donut standing in front of their old bases, which were now on fire. "Oh ho, why, oh why," Griff cried. "I told you," Donut said to him, "it was a simple mishap with my vanilla stain candles, sheesh." "Why did you have candles in the first place?" Ren asked them. "We need them to remove the stench that was coming from the kitchen," Griff explained, while all eyes glared at Carolina yet again. "I was trying to find a hobby," Carolina retorted, "so don't blame me. I regret ever tasting that MRE," Griff added. "Anyway," Simmons spoke up, "we lost 80% of our rations in the fire." So Fat Ass started going around, eating native plants. The image then showed Griff walking up to some blue-colored mushrooms. "Oh, hey there, sexy," he muttered. "Oh, and as it turns out, the mushrooms are basically crystal meth. On crystal meth." The image then revealed Griff running around the Reds and Blues' new makeshift base. Griff himself was glowing blue. "Hey ho vea doing good, okay, I'm gonna go for a rune. A lot of people say I'm not fast, but I'm super fast, and telling you about a thought sourcecret, okay bye." He slurred as he ran like a maniac. "Oh yeah," Griff shot back at his friend, "well at least I didn't spend my summer learning Esperanto." Simmons sighed, "I thought Esperanto was Spanish for Spanish. And now you're the only person in our universe who speaks a dead language." Tucker added, "How appropriate. I am so alone." Simmons muttered in Esperanto. "Oh," Caboose shouted, "Freckles got a new body. He can use any bathroom he wants now." RWBY and JNPR already knew about Freckles, since the Reds and Blues told them all when explaining their time on chorus. The image then showed a small robot walking up to Caboose and Tucker. "Prepare to be exterminated." "Gah." Caboose feigned injury. "Tucker, you're supposed to be playing dead." "Right." Tucker then continued, "That's right, around when we tried to raise some money for new bases by selling off our movie rights." "You have movie rights?" RWBY shouted. "Awesome. Even with my fame, no movie company has asked for me to be in any of their films." Hira muttered. "What rights did you own?" Nora asked them. "And for some reason Reservoir Dogs." Carolina replied, "We have yet to figure out why we own that." "Yeah, well, Hollywood really screwed the pooch on it," Griff said about their movie. "Was it bad?" Weiss asked them. "Well, it received positive reviews and critical acclaim." Doc explained, "They just got us and our story all wrong." "Oh, but we were rich." Simmons sighed. "But then we realized water parks are way more awesome than bases." Griff explained. "So we built the galaxy's greatest water park." Carolina muttered. The image then showed the Reds and Blues standing just in front of their new water park. "Yay!" they all shouted. Carolina on the other hand was more uninterested. "Yay! That's so cool!" RWBY shouted. "I wanna swim." Young added, "I'll get my bikini." "Don't bother," Griff said to her. "What? Why?" Weiss asked him. "Because of Donut," Griff shouted. "Whoopsie daisies," Donut muttered. "I mean, how do you burn down a water park, Donut?" Griff cried. 1. Lube isn't normally flammable, and B. I didn't burn down the whole water park. Just the park part. Caboose then continued their story, and then we formed the best band ever. Tucker thought it might attract chicks. Wash muttered. Which worked. Tucker retorted. Really? Nora questioned, what exactly did you call this band? The Talking Reds. Griffey replied. Tucker had a different response, Motley Blue. How about Redmau 5? Griff suggested. Anyway, Carolina spoke up. I ended up asking them if they needed a singer. We said yes. Tucker added, because chick singers are awesome. John then looked at Carolina. Can you sing? Can I sing? She questioned. Carolina then looked at her friends. Carolina sings. So good. Tucker muttered, unconvincingly. Thank you. Carolina replied. Oh, and we're definitely not just saying that because she could kill us. Simmons sarcastically added. So good. Griff added. Simmons then continued. Sarge decided to make his own enemy, so he built an evil robot army to invade our valley. But the robots malfunctioned and attacked the dinosaurs. Tucker added. The image then showed the Reds and Blues standing on the cliffside looking over a valley on Iris. Sarge's robots were fighting the planet's inhabitants. I have seen some amazing things in my life, but this takes the cake, Wash said to his peers, as they watched the battle unfold. Now that is cool. RWBY shouted, are the dinosaurs still alive? Yeah they are. Donut replied, they just destroyed the robots and left. Haven't seen them in a while though. Carolina then continued, and then Griff convinced Simmons Game of Thrones really happened. What the heck is Game of Thrones? Weiss asked. A really good TV show. Wash replied. And Griff convinced him that a fictional series actually exists. Blake added. He explained it to me in a very convincing manner. Simmons explained. The image then revealed both Griff and Simmons standing on top of the base. Nah, oh, shut up. Seriously dude. Nah, no way. Yeah, way. Dude, yeah, dude. That's awesome. Man, I'm gonna go visit. Wow. Weiss muttered, really? What? Simmons questioned, I can't believe in it. Anyway, Sarge found a new enemy. One that would keep him busy for the rest of our time there. The image then showed all of Red Team, with Carolina and Wash watching them. For far too long our people have been oppressed, crushed, under the weight of ourselves. If we don't start standing up to our mortal foe gravity, by God who will? Are we really going to let his play out? Carolina asked. Why not see where it goes? Wash replied, quite interested in what Sarge was planning. Buckle up, friendo. It's time we take this fight to the enemy. Sarge shouted. Please no. Lopez muttered. Sarge then proceeded to drive the Reds' Warthog off the cliffside. Charge. But that just meant Blue Team had one more Jeep than Red Team. Simmons sighed. That's when we realized just how outdated this whole Red Team Blue Team really is. Tucker continued. So, we had a meeting to debate a new form of government. Simmons added. Oh, this is gonna be good. Weiss muttered. I voted for anarchy. Griff muttered. I don't think that actually works. Ironwood said to him, being one of few people to have a seat on one of the kingdom's councils. Yeah, that's what Simmons told him. Tucker added, I voted for monarchy, for anyone holds the magical sword, Excalibur. Tucker proceeded to pull out his sword. Hey, dickhead. Griff shouted, two can play that game. Griff then took out his sword, with Locust doing the same. Fuck. Tucker hissed. Party Perarchi. Caboose shouted. That's not even a thing. Weiss said to him. Yeah, he just thought we were rhyming. Simmons muttered. Military dictatorship. Sarge shouted. Matriarchy. Carolina added her 2 cents. Oh, how about malarkey? Caboose shouted. That's not even a type of government. Weiss spatted, it just means meaningless talk and nonsense. The room went utter silent as the Reds and Blues just stirred at her. Malarkey won. Wash put it simply. Oh, you haven't mentioned the dark place. Caboose shouted. Oh yeah, somehow, Caboose got stuck in another dimension. Tucker explained. The image then revealed Caboose standing in, nothing. Hello. Is anyone there? This is awesome. Neat. Wash muttered, all he kept saying was neat. Oh, and we found Donut dead. Tucker continued. Really? Nora questioned. We decided to bury him in a shallow unmarked grave. Griff explained, turns out he was just, skinny dipping. Griff proceeded to shudder at the memory. Did you see him? Young asked. Yes, we saw him. Griff shouted. But that wasn't even the weirdest thing that happened. Carolina muttered, Wash grew a beard. Quote. It was kind of itchy. Wash added. And the next morning, Griff spiked Simmons' couscous with his meth shrooms. Tucker cried. Apparently, he did it for the lulz. Simmons sighed. It's been awful. Griff cried, instead of a peaceful retirement. It's been the same damn hit. With the same damn idiots. The entire room went silent after the story of the Reds and Blues' unfortunate attempt of a vacation. Glinda looked at Ironwood. You got all of that, did you? Nope. He put it simply. All right. Tucker shouted, what's next? Tucker. Simmons asked him. Tucker looked at him and the rest of his friends, who all gave him a knowing look. Oh right. Tucker groaned. That. What? Weiss asked, what happened next? Well, that depends, Wash muttered. Who here believes in time travel? The Blood Gulch crew went on to explain the arrival of Dylan Andrews and Jax Jones, who told them of a group of terrorists who bore the same appearance as them. The terrorists turned out to be a group of old simulation troopers known as the Blues and Reds. Their leader, Mark Temple, wanted revenge on the UNSC for his ass to the Freelancer project. Luckily, they managed to stop Temple and his plans. Then came the craziest thing. Gods. Nora shouted, like literal gods. Not exactly. Donut replied, more like ice that poses demigods after imprisoning the real god, Krovos. He tricked us until we stopped him. Turns out it was a time loop, and Krovos came into existence because he was one of the ice. Afterwards, we fixed the paradox and I got my cerebral hypoxia back. Wash added, we still have one of the portal guns with us. Why keep a dangerous weapon that could cause chaos for time? Glinda questioned. Don't worry, we only use them to watch historical events. Sarge replied, and our badass moments during our careers. Speaking of historical events, Weiss spoke up, did you mess anything up while time traveling? Well duh. Griff replied, of course we did, you should have seen what Caboose did. RWBY looked worried, what did he do? Tucker sighed, well for starters he and Lopez traveled to 1914 Sarajevo and gave his pistol to Gavrilo Princip, who in our history would shoot the heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire later that day. So Caboose indirectly started World War I. He then tried to get coffee from an insurrectionist soldier, sneezed on the king of the Mayans, taught primates how to use tools, founded a media company with a group of guys, and taught cavemen how to make a fire. Also with the cavemen he invented the rock band, and the song We Didn't Start the Fire. Afterwards, Caboose proceeded to use said fire to burn down the Library of Alexandria, cause the Great Fire of London, and blow up the Hindenburg. RWBY facepalmed herself, mostly to keep everyone from seeing her giggle. Sarge then continued, anyways, after our little time paradox, we did several missions here and there before settling down again. Got Locus paroled from prison on Chorus, and then came here. So that's our story. Simmons said to Ozpin, whatcha think? Well, it was a rather long story to say the least. Glinda replied. You should write a book on it. Ironwood jokingly added. We'll look into it. Wash muttered, but we have something else to say. What is it? Ozpin asked. First they need to leave. Tucker half whispered while pointing to RWBY and the others. Right, of course. Ozpin replied, RWBY that'll be all for now, you and your friends may return to your dorms. Thank you Professor. She said to him, bye guys. Bye RWBY. Caboose shouted. RWBY and JNPR all got into the elevator. The Reds and Blues then turned back to face Ozpin. So, what did you want to tell me? He asked them. We have an idea. POV change. Beacon Auditorium. A few hours had passed since teams RWBY and JNPR left Ozpin's office. They began to wonder what was taking the Reds and Blues so long to speak with them. They were now hoping to get their answer. I wonder why Ozpin called for an impromptu assembly. Nora questioned. It's probably to address the events that happened in Vale today. Blake suggested. A huge secret was revealed. Both teams walked into the auditorium. The place was already crowded with students from and visiting Beacon, and new reporters. On the stage stood Ozpin just a few feet from the podium. Ironwood and Glinda stood off the left side of the stage, while the Reds and Blues stood off to the left. Of course their appearance drew the attention of everyone. Is that them? Are the rumors true? That Aqua dude killed Torchwick? Quiet please. Quiet. Glinda shouted, Professor Ozpin would like to address the events that have transpired this morning in Vale. Ozpin walked up to the podium. He sighed quietly before speaking. I know many of you are curious, scared, confused, or unable to comprehend the events in this morning's breach into the city of Vale. I shall be honest with you all, but the truth will hurt. Yes, a group of conspirators allied with the White Fang attempting to attack Beacon during the Vital Festival. Yes, they were posing as students from Mistral. If it were not for the intervention of some daring heroes, millions of lives would have been lost. It has shown me something I have feared for too long. I have spoken with Vale's council and General Ironwood, and we have come to agreement on how to handle the threat. I shall now give the mic over to one of the heroes of today, Captain Lavernius Tucker. Several students and reporters clapped as Tucker walked up to the podium. Thank you, Professor. He stated, as much as I hate to admit it, but Remnant is now at war. I know many of you are assuming that this is a conflict that will divide the planet. No, it is not. This is a new war, a war that can unite all of life. War for freedom, a war on terror itself. My team and I, along with Beacon's finest and the Atlas military, will be launching a coalition against the White Fang and any bandit tribes deemed enemies against the kingdoms. This war will not only be fought on the battlefield, but in daily life as well. New reforms and policies will be implemented to ensure peace. I am also happy to admit that the Vital Festival will continue as planned. Thank you. Tucker then walked away from the podium with a large applause. Many people were happy to hear that after years of torment from terrorists and bandits. Now they could take the gloves off and fight for their freedom. Many huntsmen and huntresses were eager to sign on to fight, as they believed it could also promote positive feelings and ensure the safety of the kingdoms. The reporters were of course chatty. Once Tucker and everyone else on stage walked away, dozens of questions came out of their mouths. As for teams RWBY and JNPR, they were in the same boat. I can't believe it, Weiss muttered. They're actually going to try and undo all the wrong in this world. Blake stuttered, corruption, terrorism, anarchy. And the Reds and Blues are at the helm. Yang added. What about Cinder? John questioned. I'll bet she's on the top of the list. We'll have to wait and see. Hira said to him, should we all join the fight? Everyone looked at RWBY, who simply nodded yes. As for the Reds and Blues, they were now outside the auditorium with Ozpin and his inner circle, away from the press and crowd. They were making their way to Dox and the Prowler. I'm still not sure this is a good idea. Ozpin muttered as they all walked down the hallway. I've spent years trying to ensure my students didn't have to fight a war. Well, this isn't that kind of war, Oz. Tucker said to him as he put his arm around his shoulder. Think about it, we can unite the world against the things that threaten the peace. But we also indirectly remove Salem's allies and associates. She will be all alone, and have to start at square one again. Look, many people have tried and failed to prevent war both in mine and your world. And they all failed. Sometimes you gotta take the gloves off and fight. Ozpin sighed, you're right. Even you were right, James. Don't blame yourself, Oz. Ironwood assured him, you were trying to do the right thing. We all are. Anyway, is our agreement intact? Locus asked. Yes, you get teams RWBY and JNPR, teach students here at Beacon, and we'll help Kai control her powers. Glinda replied. Well, as much as I enjoy these fine little talks we have. Sarge spoke up, us soldiers have to pack up shop upstate. We'll be back before you know it. He's right. Wash added, we're moving our base here to Beacon. I believe we'll be getting a dorm like the students. Actually you won't. Ozpin replied, I have a more suitable place for all of you. Ooh, I like the sound of that. Donut muttered. Well then, like Sarge said, we'll be back before you know it. Carolina said to them before the Reds and Blues all boarded the Prowler. I'm still not sure what to make of these people. Glinda muttered. As do I. Ironwood added, they are chaotic to say the least. But their hearts are in the right place. I think we need them. Ozpin said to his colleagues, they've shown us that we have been wrong. Maybe they could be hope, bring into all of this. The Prowler took off before heading towards northern Sanus as the sun set over Vale. RWBY watched from her dorm while holding her old pendant. RWBY, Yang said to her, we're going into town to celebrate. Come on. Okay. She replied before running out the door. And this is the end of part 8 of this What If. Do not forget to leave a comment down below, subscribe to this channel.